Hey, what it do, Sports World? Welcome to the Real Untouchable Podcast with me, Ray Diggs. I got a great segment for you all. But before I get started, hey, make sure you all hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the share button. Also, make sure you all go to the YouTube channel as well as give me your feedback. All right. And, we can go back and forth in this thing. We can talk or whatever you all want to do. But it's so good to be back. It was a great day of college football. But the first game I want to talk about is the number 10 Alabama Crimson Tide going down to South Florida and barely beating the South Florida Bulls in a very sloppy game. It was 17-3. It was 10-3 for the longest, and before that, it was 3-3. All the way up until past halftime. Almost into the fourth quarter. That's when Alabama was able to really much pull away in this game. And what I want to talk about in this game is the thing that really bothered me about this Alabama team. All right. But what I want to talk about, I'm not going to really get on South Florida. They had a basic game, but this right here is the episode strictly and solely about Alabama. All right. And what I'm really worried about this team. First, I want to say I'm really worried about Alabama's offensive line. Caden Proctor, he's a true freshman. I talked about him last week on the show. And, I'm not going to bash the kid, but I will say this. I'm worried about it. Today, he was dominated again. And to be honest with you, this is 2 back-to-back games where he's been dominated. And chances are he could be dominated for a third straight game next week. Yes, he's a true freshman. But, and I know he's going to have to grow up. But when it push come to shove, this team, honestly, I'm worried about this entire Alabama team. But these are the positions that I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about the quarterback position. Tyler Boydner started the game. I'm just going to be honest with you, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The kid, Tyler Boydner, I don't even know how he was even in the quarterback conversation. Let's be real. I don't even know how he was even in the quarterback conversation. He might be the worst one out of all the quarterbacks. From what I saw today in that first half, he is by far the worst one of those quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe is better than him by a mile. Ty Simpson came in. He looked at okay at times. I'm not gonna say that he looked at amazing because he didn't, but he looked at okay at times. And then he gave us a little hope. He hit the tight end for like a 41-yard game. But for the most part, the entire quarterback, both of the quarterbacks were trash. Ty Simpson was 5 for 9 for 73 yards. I know that sounds good. Of course, man. Matter of fact, we're gonna clap for him, all right? Because that was actually good compared to what the other ones did. Let's talk about what Tyler Buchner, his name's Tyler Buchner, what he did. This kid was 5 for 14, 34 yards. Let me repeat that again. 5 for 14, 34 yards. Now when you got 34 yards against South Florida, you shouldn't be nowhere near the top of anybody's starting quarterback list. I'm trying to figure out how you started at Notre Dame last season. But now I want to give a big props out to Roydale Williams and Jason McClellan. Them boys balled out. They had 190, almost close to 200 yards of total of rushing yards. All right, one had 129, the other one had 74. And that's really what won the game. To be honest with you, the offensive line looked, oh my God, terrible. J.C. Latham. I'm trying to figure out where. I mean, I saw you last year, but it's like night and day looking at you last year and this year. Because last year you was considered a top 15 draft pick, and I'm being nice by saying 15. He probably was a top 10. This year, man, you looking like a 3rd, 4th round draft pick. Just being honest. Like, we can't get no push. Alabama offensive line is an average 350 pounds. Let me say that again. 350 pound average is what Alabama offensive line is. So you gonna tell me that this team right here shouldn't be pushing everybody around? And let's talk about the receivers. Okay, you had Drip. His name is Dippery, some weird. CJ Dippery had one catch for 45 yards. Isaiah Bond, which I had high hopes for Isaiah Bond. In the offseason, I even said that he was going to be the next Jalen Waddle. Guess what? He had 4 catches for 42 yards. Everybody else had 1 catch for 7 yards, 1 catch for 6 yards, 1 catch for 5 yards, 1 catch for 2 yards, and 1 catch for 0 yards. That's basically what Alabama receivers was like in this game. This is against South Florida. This ain't against no Georgia. You know what I'm saying? This ain't against no top team, no top 5 teams. This right here is against South Florida. Now I will say this. It was raining pretty hard out there to where they had to delay the game. But I don't care. Because Alabama, it should be one of the best teams in college football. And you coming out here and you giving away this the type of effort you giving away. And the defense, I'm going to be honest, the defense actually played a really good game. All right, you got Deontay Lawson. That boy had 10 tackles. He also had a sack. But Dallas Turner came in. He finally had 2.5 sacks. You had Chris Braswell. He had a sack. So the defense actually played pretty good. Hell, they had him to 3 points. But overall, I'm worried about this whole team. I'm gonna go as far as to say that I am even worried about Coach Saban. Yes, I'm worried about Saint Nick. Yes, I'm worried about Coach Nick Saban as well. Because something ain't right with this team. Something ain't right with this coaching staff. You got Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator. So he started his boy, which is Tyler Buchner. He started him. Now, this guy looked this bad. I think they should have just left Jalen Milroe as the starting quarterback, to be honest with you. And honestly, I think that Jalen Milroe should get the start next weekend against Ole Miss next week. Because Alabama, it doesn't get no easier for them. This is their schedule. Today most likely will be their most easiest game until they're almost close to their last game of the season. Because they play against Ole Miss next week at Alabama. They play against Mississippi State at Mississippi State. Then they go to Texas A&M. Then they play against Arkansas. Then they play against Tennessee, LSU, Kentucky. Then they play against Chattanooga, Tennessee, Chattanooga. And then they finish it off against Auburn. Bro, you gonna tell me that's not a hard schedule? That's a pretty hard schedule right there. Like most of these games right here, honestly, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see five losses out of these right here. That'd be 6 losses. That'll be the most losses in the Nick Saban era. So if you're not worried about this Alabama team, then you might need to take a look in the mirror as well, because that's exactly what this team needs to do. I think I'm gonna agree with one of the former players. What one of the former players said. He said that these players nowadays are more worried about NIL than playing football. Worried about how much money they can get. And honestly, I honestly believe that. I genuinely believe that they are worried way more about the NIL than they are about playing football right now at the University of Alabama. And that's a lot. And this ain't just Alabama. This is a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams, players are worried about NIL, how much money I can get. And that's not good. And honestly, I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. And that's why I'm going to be honest. I'm worried. I'm worried about this team. I'm worried about Alabama. But like I said, I believe in Coach Saban. I'm worried about him as well, but I still believe in him. And I think that he can get this thing together. I'm waiting in the week to see who will be the starting quarterback next week. And then I'm going to come back on and I'm going to give you all my assessment and what I think going into the Ole Miss game, because the Ole Miss game, that's going to be a big game for Alabama. That's going to be a really, really big game for the Crimson Tide. They almost in a must win because they can't lose another game at home. They almost definitely can't lose another game at home because they got to go to Auburn. Who else? 2 Texas A&M, 2 Mississippi State. So they can't really lose another game. They can't deserve to lose another game. So we're gonna talk about this right here a little bit more in the week when the roster come out, when Nick Saban posts who's gonna be the starting quarterback. Here, he might not post that until maybe Saturday, maybe the day of the game, maybe Friday, just like he did with Tyler Buchner. You know, we didn't even know he was starting quarterback till like yesterday. So we're going to have to wait and we're going to have to see what he says, what Nick Saban does from here. But this team right here got a lot of issues, starting from the quarterback to the wideouts, to the offensive line, to the secondary. Yes, I'm going to call out the secondary as well. The secondary have real life issues because honestly, they went against regular receivers today, and not saying that the receivers did a lot, but if the quarterback was actually putting it on the money, they probably could have, got some yards today. But that goes all the way back from the Texas game. They looked terrible against Texas. I think Nick Saban, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, I think that Nick Saban need to put in some of those freshmen. And I know that Nick Saban don't like putting in freshmen. Justice Hayes at the running back position, put him in. Well, who else? What's the other guy named? Earl Little Jr. Put him in at cornerback. See what he can do. Do what you did to Devontae Smith and Tua Tagovailoa. When you inserted them in, what happened? National championship happened. Put these true freshmen in. They're ready to play. Caden Proctor, you got to work on your technique. You got to work on your technique. I say that again. You got to work on your technique. All right, because the way you getting beat is just simple. If you just move, then you can pretty much stop the defensive end. But you pretty much were getting the quarterback laid out today. Caleb Downs, keep your head up. Yeah, you got smashed today. You got ran over. That right there might be one of the worst truckings I done seen since Leonard Fournette ran over the guy from from Mississippi State, Auburn. Yeah, Auburn, I think. That was the worst trucking I've seen since then. But guess what? Like I told them, I'm gonna argue until I'm blue in the face. You're a true freshman. He gonna make these mistakes. He's learning. Greatness is not born overnight. Greatness is over a long period of time. And that's what I think Caleb Down got I think he can be. And that's greatness. But this Alabama team is loaded with a lot of flaws. And if they don't get it right soon, they're going to have a second and a third loss on this record right here. Because today, this 17-3 victory today was a sloppy 17-3 victory. And I know everybody's saying, like they said about Colorado, a win is a win. Sometimes a win feels like a loss. And this right here, in this sense, this feels like a loss. This feels like Alabama lost today. 17-3 against South Florida. This right here was supposed to be when y'all get your stuff together. You know, you work during the week, and we go down here, we beat the brakes off of South Florida and get ready for Ole Miss. They went down there and they struggled with South Florida. Kind of like how Colorado did. Struggled with Colorado State. But that's a rivalry game. And I can understand that. You know, at least Colorado was at home. Alabama was at least on the road trying to deal with the rain, heavy rain. So, but I'm not giving them no pass. Both of those teams, didn't look good today. But we got to fix these issues. Coach Saban, we got to fix these issues. The quarterback position, the wide receiver position, offensive line. The offensive line need to be the number one. Offensive line need to be the number one position that need to be fixed because they can't move nobody. When I say they can't move nobody, man, honestly, they can't move nobody. I sat here today and I watched Georgia play, right? Georgia was basically just like, you know what? We're just going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and we're going to make y'all stop us. And South Carolina couldn't stop them. So that's what Alabama have to learn how to do. They got to get their offensive line ready until they can finally till they can finally be able to pretty much dominate the other team's defensive line. Until they can do that, it don't matter what quarterback you put in there. Because if you can't get a running game, it don't really matter. But I think Jalen Milroe should be the starting quarterback. That's just my opinion after watching Ty Simpson today. But let's get him a full game and see what he can do. You know, it's been really, really wet at these games, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But they need to have a hard practice this week and get ready for a very motivated Lane Kiffin Ole Miss team that's getting ready to come to T-Town. And I'm going to tell y'all something. If it's one thing that Lane Kiffin want to do, and that is defeat Nick Saban. If he can beat Nick Saban, that right there, he probably can pretty much retire after that. That's his championship. That is what he wants to do, and that is defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide in T-Town. He got a chance to do it this weekend, so let's see what happens. Hey, man, thank y'all again for listening to another great segment of the Real Untouchable Podcast with Ray Diggs. Hey, peace, and have a blessed night, all right? Peace.